Greetings, Helldivers. I've got a bit of a different video to give you today. Helldivers 2 patch 01.000.100 is now live, and I'm really excited about the changes made so far. Going on into the future, I will continue to cover various patches and updates, and I'll be sharing my thoughts and feelings about them. Eradication missions will now last longer, and hopefully provide a similar challenge compared to other missions of the same difficulty. You'll now have to kill more enemies, all while they spawn in at a faster rate. I've played a couple of these since the patch, and it feels so much better. When it comes to weaponry, 4 primary weapons and 3 support weapons have been adjusted. The SG-225 Breaker has received a nerf, now holding 3 fewer shells per magazine and having nearly double the recoil. I don't think the increased recoil will be anywhere near as impactful to the magazine capacity, as the Breaker will now struggle a little more in prolonged fights, which I feel is where it was too strong in comparison to the Punisher and Slugger. Speaking of, the SG-8 Punisher now has an increased ammunition reserve of 60 shells instead of 40. It also does more stagger on targets shot by it, and does 45 damage per pellet instead of its previous 40. The Punisher should now be a lot more viable on higher difficulties, where it previously struggled to keep up with its magazine-fed counterparts due to a poor ammunition economy. While not listed in the patch notes, the SG-8S Slugger also received the increase into its ammunition reserves. The last of the primaries to be adjusted is the SG-225 SP Breaker Spray and Pray. It now has increased armor penetration and an increased rate of fire, meaning against the bots especially, you'll be able to chew through the marines more easily now. It also fires 16 pellets per shot, increased from 12. Lastly, the magazine size is being reduced to 26 from 32, which I think is a really nice change, as the prior 32-round magazine felt a little silly and a little clunky to me. The RS-422 railgun has received quite a sizable nerf. When in safe mode, it has less armor penetration, and its overall damage against durable enemy parts has been reduced. This change on its own shakes up the balance of power among the support weapons. A save charge railgun shot will no longer reliably kill a bot strider, requiring 2 or possibly even 3 hits if your shot placement is off. Additionally, you're better off firing with the intent to kill against a charger rather than stripping the armor off the front legs. A buff that has surprised seemingly only me is to the Flam 40 flamethrower. I feel like it was already in a good position before the patch. However, over the past week or so, I've started to understand how certain aspects of the weapon were difficult to get the hang of. Now, the flamer does 50% more damage, allowing it to melt through groups of enemies much more easily. While I don't think the buff was strictly necessary, I do think it's now much more fun to use than before. Lastly, the LAS-98 laser cannon has gotten a massive buff. It now does increased damage to durable enemy parts, has increased armor penetration, and also has better ergonomics. If I'm honest, the ergonomics buff alone is huge, and likely would have brought the LAS-98 into a much better position than it was before. I suspect the laser cannon will become a very popular all-around support weapon. Quite a few bugs and issues have been fixed, but there are too many of them for me to realistically cover, and not all of them are particularly notable. Armor rating has been fixed, and is working as intended. Light armor is now no longer the best and only choice, and heavy armor is now no longer an active detriment. Visibility as a whole should now be better. Lighting across the different planets have been adjusted, meaning it shouldn't ever get too dark to see, and the sandstorms on Arata Prime have been fixed and should now be easier to see through. When launching ICBMs, exercise caution. Any Helldivers caught standing underneath when the engines fire will now run the risk of undergoing rapid unscheduled thermotherapy. Keeping on the theme of heat, literal friendly fire alongside gas and other environmental hazards created by a player will now properly deal damage to other Helldivers. All in all, I am very excited for these changes, especially with the railgun nerf. I'm also especially glad to see that, for the most part, Arrowhead is being fairly conservative with their balance changes. I really hope that in the few times I'm able to overcome my social anxiety, I'll see a lot more variety in weapon selection. Alright, Helldivers, what are you waiting for? Get back out there and spread democracy. This is Nappa, Eye of the Apple, signing off.